Well, hello and welcome to this evening's episode of Mapping It Out. Hopefully you can hear me as Till is driving and, well, who knows where we're going to end up. So, April has been a month of many updates and many other things as well. The team have been super busy. And tonight we're going to see the fruits of their labors. Multiple patches, multiple updates. All kinds of things have been added not only to the battlemap editor, but to Project Deios as well. And we're going to discuss all of those with Till and answer your questions. But I can only ask your question if you put the word question in caps in front of your question in the chat. So please do me a favor and put the word question in front of your question. Then I will ask it as soon as appropriate to the show. Now, before we go any further than that, something else that's important to bear in mind is that the Dungeon Fog Discord server is hyperactive. And if you have questions, thoughts, comments, all sorts of things, that is where you should be, is on their Discord server. Now, and I think with that, let's bring in Till so we can start the show. Hello, Till!
Hi, I hope everyone can hear me. Let us know how the audio is. Yeah.
Hopefully there's no echoing. It doesn't sound like we're in a cave or anything along those lines, because we've had that in the past as well. But Till, April's been a very busy month for you guys, hasn't it?
Oh yes, it has been. April has been April has been an amazing month, and in terms of kind of dishing out updates, doing patches, doing things like I really enjoyed April in terms of progress. So I think I'm not sure which is more fulfilling, if you're working over month and month toward one goal and you release that, or if you're in the flow and every week or every second week you're doing at least an update, a fix, something that improves quality. And that was April. Like, I don't think in the past 6 months, probably longer, we have had so many little things being dished out and tweaked and adjusted and improved. So it was a lot of fun.
Good. One comment from chat is, can you bump your audio up ever so slightly?
Yes, of course, I can.
Just
and
a little
I have
bit.
done that now. Please let me know if that is good.
All right. Cool. Well, I think with that being said, as to how busy April was, and the fact that April arrived and is now gone already, you're going, next week's May. Okay, well, let's just finish up with April. So let's dive into it. Let's have a look at what happened in the battlemap editor space.
Yes.
With company news.
Company news. Who was that?
I don't know. It's some strange bird or something.
Yeah, must have been. Right. Okay.
So let's look at all of those updates and patches, because quite a lot of things came out this month.
Let's start with the asset manager. So since the asset manager is or our hopes for the asset manager is that they are becoming an integral part of the whole kind of service that we offer. We've split it into kind of a separate product for us internally, which means that you will, in the future, whenever you look into our changelog, if you don't know where to find that, on the website in the main menu, you can find a changelog entry there. And when you go there, you see all the patches, all the updates, everything that is released in regards to previously the battlemap editor and Deios, and now we've kind of created a new category, which is the asset manager. So the kind of the abbreviation, do you say that? The shortened is AM and then version 101, for example.
Acronym.
The acronym, that's what I was looking for. Well, just looking at the asset manager and what has happened, like we've released the asset manager, then we've realized we've broken a lot of things, then we've released a couple of patches to get it back running, and with one very important thing happening in April, which makes me super excited. We then kind of kicked off the cleanup phase where we're going through everything that is kind of being reported to us, has been left over in the known issues of the asset manager. And we're now in asset manager version 101, and already approaching, I think next week, 102, with even more updates. So in the future, when we're looking at company news and things that are happening, it might be that this screen is popping up when we're talking about new things that happen on the asset manager specifically. Then we're going to look at that in this category.
Okay, that makes sense. Apparently, your audio is still a bit quiet.
Still a bit quiet. Well, it's breaching the yellow zone, so I'm trying to avoid.
You actually wanted to just touch into the red.
Actually,
so you wanted to sit in the yellow and just touch into the red. If you suddenly make a loud noise, it should only then just.
Okay.
All right, so let's try that and see what happens. If your ears are blasted, you are to blame. Anyway, right. So looking at this, when you talk about 101 and then possibly 102 coming out, those are minor adjustments. We're not going to have to relearn how to use the asset manager all over again each time.
No. So there might be, like, we've been testing it internally. So it's based on what we think feels good. But now it's open to the public, and we're getting reports and we're getting requests, and people are talking about it and are asking questions to us, and we are suddenly learning how you guys are using it. And sometimes those things are different than we anticipated. So there might be minor changes in the way that it behaves or is used. But generally speaking, it's more like this part doesn't react properly or something runs. So the move variants, for example, is a good example to talk about that. Before we introduce this, when you've created variants, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, in the asset manager, you can take an asset from the content subscription, for example, or from the marketplace, and you can open it in the asset manager and start remodeling it, changing the color, changing the way that it drops shadows, changing the way that it emits lights. So this asset becomes a variant of the original asset. So when you were moving one variant from one of your custom folders into the other, you basically created a copy that was moved over, which we thought was super clever in the beginning. But then we realized it's super confusing, because let's assume you have a folder with 3 assets in there, and you create a new folder and you want to move those 3 over, you suddenly have copied them over, but they're still in the old one. So it didn't feel like you're moving it, although everything else felt like you're moving it. So this is a change where we said, okay, we understand that. Totally clear. So now when you grab an asset and you drag it into a folder, it's getting removed from the old one and placed into the new one. And that basically is just usability enhancement.
Okay. Oh, that's super cool. That is super, super cool. So that was the asset manager, if you can see behind my head there. What about the battlemap editor in general?
Yeah.
Because I see there's some asynchronous loading stuff going on. We spoke about that a little bit last month.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what's been happening there.
Yeah. Okay. For that, I switch to the battlemap editor. Okay. So the big thing is let's say the mix was a good amount of panic, necessity, and the hope to improve something that we've been working on very long that we couldn't improve previously. Loading up a map, especially when you have a lot of assets, which comes quite naturally now because we're breaching, I think, the 8,000 asset, or at least we're approaching 8,000 assets purely from the content subscription, but when you're a Patreon follower to Forgotten Adventures or Chiving Grove or all our other asset artists, then you might easily get somewhere around 14,000 assets, right? So when you load your map for the first time, the loading screen took terribly long. It was for me with a staff account where I have access to all the stuff and also the internal ones that we're still reviewing for the next release. It was somewhere around 4 minutes until the map actually appeared and you were just staring at that loading icon. So when we introduced the asset manager, we kind of broke our loading completely. It was suddenly over 6 minutes to load it. And we were desperately looking at what was the cause, what was the problem. And since I am someone who really likes to have a plan B, we kind of did a thronged approach where we said, okay, we're looking at why our database queues are super slow, and we're certain we can find it and fix it. But if not, what should we do then? And Andy said, well, you know what? For over a year, there's sitting a task in our backlog that says asynchronous loading. We've always pushed it back. Why don't we do this right now? Because it probably takes me 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, but then I have it. And then we can, even if the database loading is still flawed, we can do the asynchronous loading. So we again, as I said, kind of out of desperation, we said, okay, let's focus on this right now. Let's do this. And Andy did an amazing job. So after we fixed the database issue, I think it was about four to 5 days until we actually got a hold on it and everything was back to normal. We said, no, Andy, you've started it, continue it, finish it. Let's do this now, because that will drastically improve the user experience for everyone. And I can't remember, I think it was last week or probably the week before that we then finished this up and released it. So the asynchronous loading has been released, is already happening. Most of you who are having a lot of assets will have already experienced that difference. We're going to look at that in a second on a different slide. And with the release of the asynchronous loading, we also figured out that there are some things with the asset manager communication that we needed to fix. So there was loading hotfix following afterwards. And then we looked at another part of the asset manager feedback, and that was people migrating their old collections into the new asset manager and having issues finding those variant packs, those collection packs. So we said, okay, it is birthed by the asset manager, but it is a battlemap editor topic, and that is pack filtering. We need to have a better way to, when you have the pack list, so not the assets or the search result, but just the overview of the packs. Can we make it better to filter for those, which is now implemented? So when you type something on the pack list overview, it will filter to only the packs that are responding to that search term before even entering that pack and looking what assets are in there. And you can open the asset manager directly from the battlemap editor, because this is the bridge topic. We're not going to talk about the bridge right now because this is in beta and we're still improving this. But the idea is that you open the asset manager and then you have it on 2 screens, so you can work directly in the battle maps while picking assets in the asset manager. However, there was a login issue it wasn't clearly communicating that you're logged in at the moment. And you have to refresh, you have to F5 in the asset manager. So that is fixed now too. So the whole experience of using the asset manager, loading maps and communicating, at least to some extent, with the battlemap editor through our bridge has become much smoother. which is a very, very rewarding feeling when working with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a statement here from Ghost Shadow, which I believe has more to do with the asset manager than with anything else. Why don't you try virtual folders and link the asset you want in that folder to the assets that are stored all together in an actual?
That's actually what we're doing. It was more related to the UI behavior, like the way that you as a user feel this asset is moved. And there was no feeling to that because you dragged it over, but it didn't vanish. So, did I drag it? Okay. Why do I have them 2 times now? So that was the thing. Technically, from the way that we're doing it, we have, let's call it a master repository where all the assets are in there. So we don't have multiple we don't have multiple copies of the physical file stored on the server. We have the file once stored on the server, and then virtual instances of the file with all the meta changes to how they look, depending on what you do, and that's what we call the variant.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Till, let's look at, you were talking about asynchronous. So I know that you've got coming up a slide.
Yeah.
Just to show the difference.
Yeah, it's just to show off. Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at it. Let's see it then.
Yes, let's keep that one. So this is it. Okay. Okay. So just to understand how big the difference is, I wanted to show it. So before the asset manager was introduced, before we did the asynchronous loading, the loading time for someone who has a lot of, and again, that might differ, how many assets do I have access to? Right. But the loading time got longer and longer and longer because our kind of initial asset manifest got bigger and bigger and bigger with every content update that we released. So it was somewhere between a minute and 3 minutes, depending on how many assets you have, to actually load the map. Now, that doesn't sound super long, but when you want to do a map and you just see that loading screen for a minute, it feels terrible. And when you're actually doing a bunch of maps, quickly, like a game master who might be running out of time because he forgot to do maps and now he quickly tries to create a couple, then
sure.
1 minute loading time is just painful and in modern times just unacceptable.
Yeah, it feels like an hour.
Yeah. So now we are, and that is my account with the maximum of assets and even hidden assets and even more stuff. My account sits at 5.2 seconds loading time to load the map, which is probably still improvable. I remember a conversation where we were looking at can we even kind of tune this even more, and it seems like there might be even possibilities to ramp this up even more. But generally speaking, 5 seconds is that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 map loaded. That's basically opening up, taking a sip of your coffee and starting. So I'm very happy with that change. And that's where we are now.
All right. Nikita Sergeyevich says,
"Oh, hi Nikita.
Something, exclamation mark. I'm afraid is it Cyrillic is not up to scratch, or I don't know what alphabet that's in, but it's showing me it doesn't show me English. So I'll come back to that one. We'll send that to Till to read later. Right, it's probably him saying, no, we're not going to speed it up, Till, you're lying, and you're creating false hope. But anyway, it's all good. Speaking of loading up assets and making it faster, we're now adding in some more assets because there's a new asset pack.
Yes, of course. Yes, you want me?
But it's
Yeah, go on.
yeah, they're beautiful. They're stunning, and I think you kind of look at it and you're like, how was this not one of the very first
Yeah,
that
true.
was made, considering what battle map editor is all about? But anyway, let's have a look.
Let's have a
You
look.
got the
So
slide.
let's look at the new
Right.
asset pack and the
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
ta-da! It's castles.
Right? You're like, what? Castles? But shouldn't this have been the asset pack 1,000 years ago? Yes, this is lovely. These are stunning. There's so many cool things. And you've actually got a live demo of this as well.
Yes, I have a live
Which,
demo of this. So I'm going to
yes,
switch to the live
yes. Let's
demo.
switch to it. Let's switch to it.
Exactly. Here we go. That was a beautiful transition. Okay. So the where do we start? It's a really
let's start
good.
with the textures.
Yeah, let's start
There's
with
a lot
the
of
texture.
textures. Yes,
Okay.
you've added in 9 new texture packs. And what is that allowing you to create really
Okay.
on this map? You've got a lovely little area.
So just before we go to I need to answer why didn't we do this before? We honestly we could have done that a lot earlier, but with the rooms and the way that and no paths that we had back then, it wasn't we weren't there yet. And also I think it took some time to mature and to work with us in the new art style that we established, with those beautiful hand-drawn textures and all that stuff. So we just simply haven't been there yet, and now we are there. And the way that we approached it is we've tried to tailor to different creation methods. So there are 2 different types of assets in there. There are regular tiles in there for people who want to just tile the map together, which again, some people would like to do that instead of working with shapes and paths and all that stuff. So if you want to create the map just purely based off tiles, you can do that. So if we look at the asset pack, we can see, well, let's do it in the asset manager. Come on, open up. There you go. Castles. Let's make this full screen. So as you can see, there are 8 new paths in there. We can look at them in detail later. Then we have 49 different props, and here you can see there are all those different tiles and tile combinations in there that you can use. And then there are a bunch of textures, and then of course there's decorational stuff that you can use. So the idea was this is not the only castle pack that we're doing. This is the first one, and this is about like castle walls and fortifications. Basically, this is creating the exterior feel of crenellated walls, towers, and things like that. So to flavor it up, this actually is not part of the asset pack. I stole that from Battlegrounds.
Battlefield.
Yeah.
Battleground, yeah.
Exactly. But here we can see I think this is quite cool because you can create like a regular straight line, and then you just take this outcropping and put it somewhere. So you can kind of flavor up the architectural way of how do you create this battlement here. Then we have the towers, and we have obviously roofed towers, square towers, and then it comes to textures, and here we can see basically the different types of textures. There are those walkway or top floor textures that you can use, and then there are different variants of how would you call them?
Cobbled streets.
cobbled streets, yeah, pavement, indoor. It's not indoor, but it's within the within the castle area where you can then create them. And again, if I let me just quickly remove that tower so we can have a better look. So we have those, I think, really cool flooded, wet, rainy pavement style. We have the one with the moss here, where you can add moss to it. So if I move it over here, we can see there's moss in there. Then the regular one, and I think there's even a mossy combination of water and moss and floor, and so that's for that. And then of course we have the same thing for those. They come at do I have a texture in there? No, let's quickly draw one so we can see it. We don't want the stone texture, we want the castle texture. So let's start with that one. So, probably, wait, let's ramp up the opacity and let's reduce the softness so we can actually see it. I hope people can see it. I can zoom in even more.
Yep, okay.
So this one is without cracks. Then we have it with cracks, which makes it a little more weathered. Then we have it with cracks and moss. And then we have it with non-cracks but moss. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do there. And that is for you if you want to kind of add details to the tiles. So you have placed this tile here, and now you're going like, yeah, okay, let's put this up here to create a little bit of variance. So they work together, which I really enjoyed when I created it. Okay, but of course you could potentially also just go and say, okay, let's use that texture and let's create let's create a shape here. So you could draw your completely own kind of layout. And if you want to do that, let's give it an outline and an outer shadow for now. Then of course you would like to have battlements or crenellations for that too, which is why we've also added a lot of variance here. So I could use this one to create a very like a non-crenellated wall, right? And editing. Okay, so we could have that one here. Or I could say, well, no, okay, I want to actually have it with crenellations. However, the problem with that is apparently, obviously, is that when it tries to bend around the corners, it will always come at the risk of creating something like an artifact here, which is fine because those rocks come as separate props too, so you can just hide it by placing a rock over there. And if you want to be super quick and you're just like, I want to create a, shouldn't have done that. I want to create a pathway, then of course you can just do the same thing here. And this one, if you're not too brutal on the curvature, this one actually works really nice, especially if you turn on the smoothness. So yeah, so that's basically, that's the whole pack. And then you have, and then you can build your castle and then you can break it down. Like for example, we have those cracks that you can place here. So you could use the crack, then have a bit of broken rubble that you can place on top, like in big or in small. We have those kind of weathered old corner roofs. There is what we call, I think we're calling it an archery roof, that you can draw here to put them on your battlements. Yeah, I I think it's really good if you think about battle maps again. If you think you could create a full castle with it, but a castle, if you want to have a wall with kind of 5 or 10 feet for people moving up there, in terms of combat movement on a map, that's a massive map. So you can do that, but the way that we designed this is more that you say, okay, we have a special location, like combat is taking place on this segment of the wall. So I want to show a good map for this segment, and this gives enough spacing. That's why those things are so big as they are, because they're intended to be there to give you enough combat spacing there. And
makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense. Question here from Drigger X, I should say. The cracks and moss should just be transparent textures, and that way they could be layered over the stone and any other textures as well.
Yes, that's true. However, we had some reports with transparent textures breaking stuff. So we are experimenting with transparent textures, but we're trying to track careful there, because we haven't really understood when and why on some machines transparent textures in web GPU or whatever this is break. So there have been kind of render glitches or color glitches to transparent textures, and so we're experimenting with it, and we're going to release them once we feel like, okay, we've got a hold on it.
That's fair. All right, wonderful. Well, I look forward to building some castles there. I do wonder, has anyone ever actually translated a real world castle into a Dungeon Fog map? I mean, I remember when Dungeon Fog first came out, I tried to translate one of my homeworld maps onto Dungeon Fog, and it collapsed. But that's because it was, well, I need 150 inches because 1 inch is it was 10 feet, and it was just too much. But this was 5 years ago, and way before we had anything like pods or tiles or.
I remember.
So maybe that's a project.
So if that is a serious question from you to me. Then maybe you should just think back a week. Where have you been? Because
for sure.
You have been at Lumley Castle for D&D in a Castle, right? And we did the official floor plan map as a castle map. Yeah.
That's just the keep.
Yeah, true.
And those walls were not to the right scale. Those walls were 1 inch thick. They should be 5 foot thick, right?
Yeah.
But no, I agree.
Anyway, I do remember. I do remember doing the Castle Ravenloft with an old, like, I think V3 Dungeon Fog times back then, and it was like that's massive thing.
Especially because that would only be one level.
But I would be really I'm super excited to see what people are doing with it, and I hope you guys are going to share your castle maps in the hub, because if you make them public, we can all see them, and I think there will be really cool maps out there fairly soon.
Fantastic.
Lovely.
Okay, we need to go back to the original presentation now. And that brings us to the end of our discussion for the battlemap editor. Now we are on to Project Deios.
Yeah. Project Deios!
Never ceases to get me. Now, Project Deios has also been very busy. You guys have been doing a lot of stuff as well. Last month we saw there was some assets that were being developed. There was a question There was a question asked earlier by Lensman. Have we got new color palettes for the new assets and things like that? Well, we're going to talk about that, but let's have a look at the roadmap first.
Yes, let's have a look at the roadmap. So, The upcoming patch version 065 is in the works, is almost finished. We are hoping to release it this week. If something pops up in the next 2 days that might be kind of delaying it, then it will be early next week. But we're basically down to testing and verifying that we haven't broken anything in this version of the patch, which will come with the final artwork for the city map editor. We have reworked all the assets that are out there. We have added, can't remember, about 150 new props, paths, roads, and textures. So in total, I think you'll get about... Well, you can do the math. I have the numbers later, but I'm really terrible at adding them up. I would say something around 400 new assets in total. The new color palettes are done. So we were reviewing the color palettes. I've been talking about that last month, where we said, okay, we need to have a better art style out there. So that is done. We've cleaned up the asset libraries to kind of tailor to that need. We've also improved the terrain handling for the elevation tool, because there are some things with the elevation tool that were either broken or not satisfying to work with at the moment. So there should be a huge improvement there. And then we just did, as always, UI cleanup, tool stability fixing, and minor bug fixing. So all of this will be released with the upcoming patch. And again, not sure if, I hope we can do it this week, but it's planned for this week. But if something crops up, we might have to do it next week. Right, and once that patch is out, which is the important part, well, that's why Guy is hiding, is next upcoming is world map workover. So we're going to finish up city map making with this patch, hopefully by the end of the week, and then we will transition back to world map cleanup, which doesn't mean that we don't affect city maps in the future, because now we're at a point where when we edit something, where we add to a tool or rework a tool or rework some behaviors, we can actually decide if that behavior is branched out to both systems. So when we start working on biomes, for example, those will also be affecting the city map editor. When we're working on, I don't know, stage texturing and stuff like that, this will also affect the city map editor. But generally speaking, we're like, okay, with the city map editor, we're now in a really good place. So we are going to, while we're going to basically turn around what we did last year, we're going to work on the world map editor while we produce more and more assets for the city map editor. And we're going to, it's not going to be a monthly cycle, because we still have to kind of work us into this, but in an almost monthly cycle, we will release new assets for the city map editor. So that's the plan. That's what we're doing.
Super cool. And so I've got a few questions here. When will we get the remaining asset packs promised from the Kickstarter?
Yes, they will be, again, as I said, now that we're turning back to the world map editor, they will be handed out with the workovers for the asset manager. Sorry, I'm still like, I've been talking about the asset manager for months now. I don't know. My brain is confused. I mean, for the world map editor. Now that we're back to the world map editor, we will start dishing out the remaining asset packs there.
Fantastic. Will there still be the option to upload custom assets? And if so, when could we see that coming in?
When? Yes. So we have 2 tasks on the back end that are currently being worked on in relation to that. So the idea is that the asset manager, and now I'm purposefully saying asset manager and meaning it, we want to use the asset manager as a central kind of distribution hub for all the assets, which means that Deios, so first of all, our internal asset manager is being prepared to also manage Deios assets, and Deios is being prepared to actually receive them from the asset manager. And that's something that is currently on the concept board, because we have a couple of ideas how we could do that. And it's being so the reason why it's still being debated is basically, do we want to have a desktop software that kind of needs an internet connection to receive assets, or do we want to have something where you can download an asset pack, for example, from the asset manager, and then just click install and add it so that you don't have to have an active internet connection to work with it? And this is kind of, because there's like, I've shown you two extremes. There's a lot of nuance in between there, where you could say, no, only to download I need an internet connection, and so on and so forth. And that's basically where we're currently kind of trying to angle the best approach to it. But generally speaking, if you create assets in the, or if you create your custom pack in the asset manager, you will be able to either download this as a Deios pack, or you will just kind of send it to Deios to be in there. So the idea is to use the asset manager to create your own packs and then put it into Deios.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So shall we look at some
Yes,
visual demos, because there's some quite striking visuals.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Right.
first one. What you see here is a very confusing screen, and I'm trying to walk you through it. So on Guy's side, you can see the old assets and the old cobblestone road. So this is what you currently have at the moment. In the process of reviewing the general art approach, we've realized that light roads might be even more aesthetically pleasing, or even more structured for the eye to actually grasp a city layout. So we've introduced the Whitestone Road, which means in the big frame behind me, you can see the new assets, the reworked assets, with the new color palettes, and with the new textures, and with the new Whitestone Road, right? But because we didn't want to take anything away from you, we've introduced the Whitestone Road as a fourth option to road creation, which means that, of course, if you want to have like more dark, dirty road types, you can still use the cobblestone roads in combination with the new assets. So we're not taking anything away, we're just adding on top of it. But still, I'm very happy with the new Whitestone Road and the general approach. And to show that, here is another small map that I did that now utilizes everything that's new. Basically, it utilizes the new textures. It utilizes the new we even redid the sea textures, the water textures. So there's a lot more detail to the water textures now. It's all the new assets. It's the Whitestone Road, which then, of course, needs a Whitestone Bridge to work with, and so on and so forth. So we have reworked 135 props, just to make the old props be the new props, and fit the new art style. And then we've also started and created 160 or 58 props, to just to complement the existing props and make a bit more variety there. Then we have created 69 new textures. So based on the color palettes and based on the general art theme that has been created around city maps, we have then started to create textures, and tried to do them in a way that you can actually really use texture blending, where one texture bleeds into the other, as you could probably see in the top row where Guy's sitting, the brown ones, where they go from light brown to dark brown to middle brown, darker brown to darkest brown, light brown. And in the greens, you can also see that they're trying to mix different color palettes. So those textures, and then on the islands, you can see how they actually look. So all of those textures have this kind of paintbrush art approach to it, which I think looks really cool when you do it on the map. And of course, I've prepped a little demo that we can then look at. So
absolutely. I mean, I love the idea that by the blending is definitely going to be happening. Chat loves the idea as well. We got hearts from Lensman for all of the upgrades you guys have done. But looking at these colors and things, you go, well, that's pretty much everything that you need. There's ice. There's
we
when
tried
you guys
to.
were coming up with these 69. It's like, what's left?
Yeah, that's true. So it was 69 wasn't an intended number where we're like, oh, it's 69, let's do that. It's basically we ran out of ideas. Yeah. We were like, okay, what else can we do? Well, I mean, we do have ideas, but we actually need to have the assets for that first, like volcanic.
And
or
something orange.
Exactly, and more deep rock style, mountainous rock styles. There is still stuff to do. So we're definitely going to add textures to it. And all those are very, let's say, they're color textures rather than art detailed textures. So you won't find anything with detailed rock formations or cracks or crevasses or stuff like that. You won't find that yet because we found the art style that we enjoyed most. We've kind of matured into where we are right now. And as with the battlemap editor and all the stuff that we did there, I'm almost certain that over the next couple of years, we will grow more confident in that art style and do more experimentation. So there will be definitely more textures. But again, I think we need to learn our trade first more into what do we need to create.
No, absolutely. And so just to be clear, these textures, they are available in the city map editor, and are they currently available in the world map editor as well, or is that still going to happen?
The world map editor still works with the old concept where we said, no, you just want to use colors. And this is one of the, I'm not sure if it's the first, but it is one of the changes that we're going to bring over to the world map editor, is that we're going to say, okay, no, it's not going to be colors. Colors is one option. It's going to be those textures there as well, because I agree with you, they would work brilliantly on a world map too.
That's fair. Okay, let's have a little bit of demo.
Oh, right. Yes, give me a second. I'm going to switch back to just us two here, because I need to close a couple of screens, open a couple of different screens until I'm ready.
So, just while Taylor's doing that, folks, a reminder, jump onto the Discord. That's discord.gg/dungeonfog. And there's a whole bunch of conversations going on there. If you don't know where to find Discord, just head along to the website, www.dungeonfog.com, and you'll see there's a link to the Discord. It will take you through the entire setup process, as well as, of course, being able to find all sorts of cool things on their website. Okay, so here we have it, and this is the new white stone road.
Yes, exactly. So this is, I just did, and I think the goal of the demo is just to play around with it and see what we can do with it. So this is...
Those textures are stunning.
Yes, they are.
Just straight off the bat.
Exactly.
They look amazing.
They look amazing. And when you look at what we did, so for example, if you want me to, I can just delete the textures and we redraw them quickly, so that we can see how they actually are created.
We've got some time. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this. So, what I basically did is I worked uphill in my mind. I was like, okay, I want to go from the river up. So I've picked this one as my kind of riverbed texture, and as you can see here all the textures are already in there and available. They're sorted kind of like a base color scheme, following our base color sets, and then they break off into kind of named detail sets that we're going to use, like grass, 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 in always from the lightest to the darkest variation, so that we can use that there. So that's how you're going to find your stuff in there. And I decided that base 02 works nicely for the riverbed, so I'm going to draw that here. I'm not sure if you are seeing it on screen because it's
slight.
Yes,
very slight. It's
but
very similar, but there's
this
definitely
is
a change.
actually intended, because it should be just from the base ground texture to this one, it should be very soft, because over the course of the past years where we have been experimenting with textures for the world maps and for the city maps, the one thing that we realized is working with brushes means treading really lightly. If you go to full boom on textures, it will look ugly. If you have soft transitions and very light textures, it actually looks much better. So that's why that is a very soft one. So the next one I did, I think I took a grass texture here. I think I took the lightest grass texture, and for now this is all through the set index, but this is going to be addressed fairly soon when we have the layering. So I'm putting my grass texture beneath it, and I'm going to draw something here. And if I don't like the way that they kind of blend into each other, I can actually just increase the blending distance. And as you can see now, it blends much smoother. Going to do the same thing for this here while we are on it. I'm going to increase the blending distance here too. And now we're going for, do we want to do grass or two? No, I think we go to the next level. Okay. And increase the softness again a little bit. There you go. And then let's do that one. Let's take a forest texture. Let's take the darkest forest texture that we have and just put it behind the forest. Okay. And that already looks good. I still think we could actually increase that a bit too. And there you go. That's how super easy. Yeah. And the only kind of wonky thing at the moment is that you still have to kind of narrowly work with set indexes to kind of get your brain around that. But we're going to address that. The way that textures work, super easy, and the way that the color combinations work, also I think straightforward. And I hope in a way that it's self-explaining to easily create nice transitions. Mm-hmm. All right.
Now,
yeah, go on.
I would imagine that the white cobbled roads now definitely leap out if you're going to use a filter like the black and white map filter.
Yes.
And the texture upgrades also will have more detailing. I know that's not
well, we can look at it.
Part of the plan, but
so
the roads jump out at you now.
Yeah, the roads jump out, and I think that's a good one because it was a bit vague on the other ones. The rest, I think, I don't know. You have to tell me. Like honestly, this is where we would like to get feedback. But I think that works kind of out of the box. you adjust it to what you would like to see, and there you go, right? We'll see. I don't think that we've hit the end of the road for the outline mode. I'm fairly certain that we can do stuff there, but I'm quite happy with the results so far.
Yeah. I think the outline mode should probably just by default cancel the shadow, because if I'm looking at it, the only thing that's really looking not so great is the shadow of the trees, and you go, well, just auto turn off the shadows, and bingo, you'll oh. I'll shut up because that's already an option. You see, that looks to me almost ready to go. I think so. Yeah.
No, but having a toggle for that in there probably would be good. But we'll see. So you can do that if you want to customize it for that already. It's not as convenient as it might be. Okay.
For sure.
Let's turn that off. Yeah.
Yes. When are we going to get these? You were saying next week or the week after?
I'm saying this week or the week after. So by the end of this week, we hope we can release it. But again, please, forgive us if we realize on Friday when we say, okay, we're going to release it on Friday, and we realize something is broken that we didn't see. That we are like, okay, let's fix that next week and then do it by mid next week. So this is the time frame that I'm giving. It's either the end of this week or early next week. Right? Okay. So let's look at the assets that are there. Let's just go to the watercolor assets. So here you can see, like, we already know them. They just have been reworked. They have been kind of, I think, made even more hand stylish, artish. I really enjoy the new art style on them. But we can see there's a lot of, like, there are a bunch of more blue buildings. Like, we think those are those blue grayish slates. Then we have
slate.
Yeah, we're calling them shingles. I'm not sure if that's a word.
Shingles.
Oh,
well, a shingle can be made out of wood as well, wooden shingles or slate shingles. But you are correct. They're either way. They're used on roofing to make it waterproof.
Yeah. So they are there to the boats. I think we've added a boat here to give you even more nautical options. There's a couple of bushes here. The cathedral hasn't been reworked yet. That is part of the rework process. We will update that prop once we have got it done. Then we have beautiful new roofs here in all color variations. So you could always take one of those and put it, like, let's do it so you can understand what I'm talking about. And increase set index. Come on, put it up. How much further do I have to put you? There you go. And put it somewhere so you now have kind of a circular roof up here. It's just the rework clutter here, but then we have a bunch of really cool elven buildings with green roofs, with red roofs. We have the flat houses, you already know them. We have a bunch of different red roofed houses here. Again with shingles, then wooden, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, those straw roofs, temples. And there are a couple of them are kind of double in there, which is, in my working build at the moment, they will be hidden later. The reason why they're double in there is because we want to update old maps and replace them. However, we've changed the naming conventions for our assets, and that's super. If we change the names, but we also change the references, it's getting really mixed up. So for now, we have them like, this is the old naming convention with the assets, so we can replace them, and they will be hidden in the release build, so you simply don't see them. Yeah, that's it. Roads, again, There's not much. There's just one new road that has been added if you want to draw roads. Paths, also couple of new paths, couple of old ones that are in the process of being reworked. And yeah, and I think that's more or less what we're doing. This build doesn't include the new terrain elevation stuff. I don't think, at least it does. No, it doesn't. It does not yet include it. This is something that I'll get for testing probably tomorrow. So I can't show it yet.
But what you have shown, I think, is really, really cool. And I mean, I can just see there's already that roof that you've made, that big L shape with a path tool just on the outside of the castle walls. You're like, oh, that could be stables. It could be any kind of structure. It's really awesome. Yeah, and then your shadows are back, and it just makes the whole thing pop even more. So I think that's great. We got hearts again from everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, and one last question here. How far down the list are the new city map assets? They're kind of being worked on and added on as we go, isn't that correct?
The new what? Come again? The new city map assets? Oh, you mean
how
like
far
modern?
down the list are new city map assets? So new things like.
Okay, so no, they're not far down the road. We have we've now finished this set. I already have a couple of packs or sets on the list. So the only thing, and I said last time, and I'm going to repeat it. I think we're going to do a poll on Discord soon, where we ask what city pack would you like to see next? Because I know I've seen it on Discord. There is a conversation or a debate about, do we want to have modern city assets right now, or do we rather start on adding merchant districts, markets, probably like administrative buildings? Do we want to have stuff like that in the fantasy themes first? Each pack will be between 25 and 50 assets, and we're confident to some degree that we can do a pack per month. However, this is new in terms of creating those packs for the city map editor. So this might be slower in the beginning until we kind of find our rhythm and then pick it up there. So there's going to be, next month will be the next 50 assets for cities already being released. We simply haven't figured out which one that is.
So there you go. I mean, that's pretty good turnaround time. So again, go join the Discord. There might be a poll coming up soon. Super exciting. Well, Till, I think we've had 2 great demos this evening. So thank you for that, and for sharing with us what the team has accomplished in this month. I'm looking forward to May, just to see what comes in May, because you guys seem to be flying at the moment. It's really nice. The morale in the office must be quite high. You guys must be quite happy with where you are at the moment.
Well, yeah. Well, generally yes, but I mean it's taxing. So I can understand that my people are sometimes like, it's when does it end? But generally speaking, I think I think everyone can be really proud of what they achieved. That's what I hope conveys to the team, that everyone knows that it is very much appreciated by you guys, by me, by everyone, that this is amazing work that they do.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And with that brings us to the end of tonight's show. So, any final thoughts, Till?
No, no final thoughts.
We can see that there aren't any final thoughts.
No, I'm like, oh, let's go to bed. No, thanks, guys. As always, Guy, thank you very much for being our moderator, for talking, for walking us through this evening or morning or whatever it is when you're watching it. Thank you, Guy. Guys, thank you very much for your questions and your feedback. And with that, Guy, do you want to wish everyone A happy map making.
You know what? I was waiting for you to cut me off, and I thought, no, he's not going to do it. He's actually going to let me do it. And then yeah. Anyway, goodbye.
Goodbye.